What's up, guys? Started a little bit early today. Morning. How's everyone doing? Got some decent setups today, so we'll see how that goes. Just figured I'd start a little bit early today. Wasn't really up to much. Woke up early today. Morning, good morning. Get started here shortly. What's up, everyone? So we started a little bit early today. We'll get started in a few minutes. What's up, everyone? Morning, good morning. We'll get started here in a few minutes, guys. Morning, good morning. Started off live trading the stream a little bit early today. I was at my desk a little bit early, kind of got bored, so I said let me just start a little bit early. Hope everyone's doing well. Seemed like a little bit of a slow pre-market as well. So we'll give it another minute or two and then get started. Good morning, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, Steve. Good morning, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Sounds like you're feeling better, huh?
Yeah, I was feeling better. And this morning I woke up with like a little bit of a itch in my throat. So I don't know if it's related or if it's something else, but I'm kind of in shambles this month, dude.
Huh. Man,
So I got a
you
little
can only
bit
go
of
up from here.
Yeah, like a dry throat, like an itchy throat type thing. So I don't know.
Right. That sucks.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on, bro. I don't even leave my house, so I don't know how do I keep getting sick.
Right.
Hantavirus, yeah. Val's like, that shit has a 50% mortality rate. I was like, thanks, pal.
Maybe it's just allergies.
I don't know.
I mean, it's April, May.
I really don't know, bro. I just want to be like healthy. You know what it is, man? It's like when you're healthy, you don't really even think about it. And then when you're just like a little bit under the weather, you're like, dude, please let me just be normal.
Right.
Like my office desk right now is filled with cough syrup and cough drops. So, anyway, there's one way to cure any sickness, and that's making money in the morning. So hopefully we don't amplify our sickness by losing money. Get some sunlight, yeah. So we'll give it another minute here, and then we'll get started. You need some time off? Yeah, towards the end of the month, I'm going to take some time off. All right, let's get started here. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to live trading. If this is your first time on live trading, welcome. We are using the webinars channel in Slack to communicate. So, the way we structure live trading is pretty simple. We talk about what's working, what's not. We build the watchlist live and we trade the watchlist live. So, big news today is that these memory stocks are finally starting to come down. As we've been mentioning over the last couple days, is these memory stocks need to break below the previous day's low of the day to be considered a decent short. So if you look at SanDisk, previous day's low of the day, we're under. If you look at Micron, previous day's low of the day, we are under. If you look at Intel, previous day's low of the day, we are under. If you look at AMD, previous day's low of the day, we're under. If you look at the SOXL ETF, previous day's low, we are under. If you look at the SMH ETF, previous day's lows, we are under. Do you guys notice a pattern, right? I just went through 5, 6 different stocks and ETFs, and they are all doing the same exact pattern. So that tells me that today, on a bounce, I certainly want to be shorting these names. So what I want to do here is I want to go to the chart and I want to draw the previous day's low. Look at that. SanDisk, the previous day's low was 15.15. Where did SanDisk reject? Where did SanDisk reject? That seems interesting, huh? Now let's go do it on Micron. Where is the previous day's low on Micron? Look at Micron. Previous day's low acted as support. So we could see very clear as day that once the support breaks, it acts as resistance. So we need this support area to break to start to act as resistance. So with these memory stocks, and even look at Intel, let's pull up Intel real quick. You can essentially take your pick of which one of these on the previous day's low. Look, now it's under the previous day's low. So you can pretty much take your pick on which one you want to trade and which one you want to focus on. So to me, when I'm seeing these types of moves on this SanDisk and Micron, I'm not trying to buy for a breakout at $1,600 a share when it's already ran thousands of percent. On Micron, I'm not trying to buy a breakout at 800 when it literally doubled over the past month, maybe even almost tripled, So to me, anyone buying up in the nosebleeds up here is doing something wrong. So if we could identify that this is not a buy, at what point do we identify that it is a short? When it's under the previous day's lows. Why are we using the previous day's lows? I mean, look at the perfect example of CAR. What happened on CAR when we broke under the previous day's lows? Now, this is a totally different vehicle, no pun intended, but you can see that when these things break under the previous day's lows, that is the signal, right? That is the major signal. You could pull it up on gold. Look at what happened when gold broke under the previous day's lows, right? Went down for 3 days straight. What happened when silver broke under the previous day's lows? It has never been higher. So the previous day's lows are your signal that these things potentially, the top could be in. So hopefully we get a bounce in the morning on these memory names to short. That's probably going to be my top watch today. WOK was one from yesterday that went absolutely bananas. Went all the way as low as like 20 cents and bounced to $6. So for me, these are just kind of an avoid. I don't really like to trade these Chinese liquidation plays. I'm not really interested in any of that stuff because every time I've tried to trade it, I always lose money. So it's the same thing with me and the quantum names. You have stuff like IONQ moving, RGTI, and every time these quantum names move, I lose money. So rather than trying to be an expert at it, I just stay away from it. It's like if you go to the casino and every time you play blackjack, you lose money, and you keep going back to the blackjack table, you're the fucking idiot. So for me, I am just trying to stick to the basic stuff. Not really much small caps moving today. Obviously, small caps are my priority every single morning, but if there's no action, that's totally fine. And yeah, pretty much watching these memory names for hopefully some sort of profit taking today, and that's going to be the main thought process. So with that being said, let's get started by building the watch list. As you guys know, the way that we build the watch list is we always go to the previous day's watch list first, and we build from there. The reason why we always go to the previous day's watch list is we want to just make sure that we are not missing any stocks that are in play. Oftentimes if we see things moving, sometimes maybe we forget. So this kind of helps me not forget. So CLIK never gave one single bounce yesterday. Looks pretty broken today. Not really much interest. ODYS was yesterday's main hot stock runner. Had a halt down and then broke support and never really gave a bounce to get in. It just kind of melted down and melted down and melted down. So unfortunately, not really much opportunity there. As you guys know, as soon as a stock comes back to where the move started, you can see the move started on ODYS around $5. As soon as it comes below that area where it started, I'm no longer interested in trying to attack it because there's not much room to make money. So that's that. Intel, Micron, SanDisk, AMD. So I posted this earlier in the main trading room, and I'm just gonna repost it again. So MU SanDisk INTC, SOXL at SMH, all gapping down below previous day's support. Look at what happened to CAR when it broke 565 previous day's support. This is not the same scenario as CAR, but when these extended stocks break below their previous day's lows, that's been the key to start shorting. So we'll watch it bounces at open to short these stocks. WOK made a major move yesterday, and I'm not really interested today. You know, it showed us it could bounce. So let me write this down. This showed us it can bounce from 25 cents all the way to $6. So I am not interested in this one. Mostly ignoring and focusing on easier setups. Something to keep in mind. When money flow exits the memory names, it will probably flow into other names. So ask yourself, what sectors have been weaker lately for the money to flow into? And right now, just basically, you can look at Microsoft. Microsoft is green. That's kind of odd. Why is Microsoft green? Well, software, IGV, has been underperforming in this market. So there's a very high possibility that once the money flow exits the memory names, it could enter the software names. Go figure. That might be a possibility, you know what I'm saying? So it's not enough that these things are gonna leave money on it's not enough that the memory names are gonna lose money. You know, that money has to go somewhere, right? So this is the way that you have to think about it, you know, when you're trading is, you know, that's the thing that you have to remember about trading is it's not just about, you know, the 1 day's action or the 1 day's whatever. You know, it could be a combination of what happens next, and what happens next is the key. So far, to me, software names have been weak. IGV, ETF. So maybe money flow goes into various software names. So, anything else? Yeah, BuzzFeed I saw so a couple of actually fun facts. I don't know if you guys saw yesterday, GameStop went crazy. GameStop went crazy because Roaring Kitty's Twitter got hacked. So someone hacked Roaring Kitty's Twitter, pumped up GameStop, and once people found out it wasn't him, it kind of came back down. eBay rejected GameStop's buy offer, so that's not happening, obviously. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is pretty much the main watches I got today. You know, same thing, Micron, SanDisk, WOK, and then maybe software names. BuzzFeed obviously is moving as well. If I remember seeing the news, I think this was some sort of acquisition or someone's taking like a majority stake or something along those lines. So nothing really there. All my focus, all my attention is probably going to be on these software names today. If it's not going to be on these software names, I mean, dude, how can you not be focused on software today? If you're not focused on software when we're under the previous day's lows, I mean, what the hell are you doing? You know, it doesn't mean that it's going to collapse. It doesn't mean that it's going to go to zero. But this is the first time in a long time that we've had a very high potential probability for these software names to have a potential profit-taking day. And I want to be involved in that. So that's all I got so far. And with that being said, I will pass the baton over to Steve. Actually, real quick, before I do, let's kind of go over my month so far. So, nothing really monumental yet. Up, oh my God, 666.97. So, up around 6,000. Last month, I ended the month minus 7,000-ish. So, just one more green day, and I'll make back last month's small loss. As you guys know, April I lost 7,000, but March I made 246,000. You know, February I made 71,000. In January I made 280,000. So March And April, I know, in April and May have been just a little bit slow for me so far. But same thing as always, just chugging along slowly but surely. I'm going to be taking some vacation times from May 22nd until the end of the month. One of my friends is getting married, and then it's going to be my brother's birthday. So I'm going to take some much needed time off. Hopefully I'm not still sick by then. I don't know what the hell has been coming across me. I need to go make another tea real quick. So while I go make another tea, I will pass the baton over to Steven. As you guys know, we're live trading on YouTube from 9 a.m. to 9:29 a.m. and then cutting off the live stream for MIC members. I've kept the stream going for multiple days now, but today I'm going to be cutting it off at 9:29 as we trade a very big opportunity on these memory names. So if you guys are interested in joining, if you guys are interested in watching the live trading stream, we've been doing this for years now. Just email us at stevenrh1@myinvestingclub.com. And that's pretty much it. So Steve, I'm going to pass the baton over to you. And we'll get started here live trading in the next few minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to go make some tea. I'll be right back.
Cool. Sounds good. So, first of all, if you guys are in Slack, come into webinars. I'm going to post everything there. Huge shout out to Phil for throwing these April recaps together. Huge shout out to everybody who participated and posted their April recaps. I'm going to go through these and maybe we can do a lesson on these the next couple of days. But in the meantime, feel free to save these. Feel free to review them when you get a chance, and we could talk about them the next couple of days. April in general, was a tough month for most. I think everybody I talked to had a really tough April. It was just one of those crazy months, right? So I think these recaps will be interesting. I did see the few members that did fairly well, like Mark, who I highlighted last week. He actually did really well in April. And they did it kind of by, not trading outside of their niche, managing their risk, all the basic things that we teach, right? So anyways, feel free to read through that when you guys get a chance. And I think that in the next, day or two, we can put together kind of a lesson on them. We can kind of review them and all that kind of stuff. Also, if you guys are not active in the Discipline Workshop, these are actually Discipline Workshop recaps. But even if you guys aren't not active in the workshop, it's still good to put your recaps together. Post it, I don't care, in the Discipline Workshop or after hours, wherever you want. But it's just still a really good idea, to kind of reflect on the month, right? Post any lessons, what worked well for you, what didn't work well, what you're working on, all that kind of stuff. And I think there's a ton of knowledge and lessons that are helpful to others in these recaps. So I think more should do these and participated. Just checking. I'm covering CNCK. I'll post my chart as soon as I cover out. So here's today's topic. I think this is going to be a fun one. Graphic on this, and yeah, I'll post it. Feel free to chime in if you guys have any input or if you have any questions or anything to add. I'll be happy to try to review it if we have enough time at the end. So yeah, I think this was a really fun graphic. As you can see, Bao and Alex are now being included in the graphics, so kind of fun. So yeah, what's holding you back? These are some common roadblocks, and this is kind of like a summary of just all the random kind of issues that I've had, that I've seen members have. Sometimes a member will give me, like, hey, I'm not doing well lately, and they'll kind of go through what's going on, and then they won't actually be able to identify it, but it's one of these issues. You know what I mean? So a lot of times, even if you have an issue that doesn't seem related, it usually, I think, could fall into one of these categories. So I want to go over these categories. I want to go over some helpful advice that might be able to help with some of the stuff. And like I said, if you guys have anything to add, feel free to chime in. So the biggest roadblocks in trading, especially after somebody's been here, in MIC or trading, more than 6 months, more than a year or two, it's not usually the setups. It's not usually, understanding the kind of ins and outs of a specific trade. It's more related to kind of psychological roadblocks, right? Other things that are happening, right? Things that they're being challenged with externally, not just, internally, not just inside the trading setups, right? So some of these that I commonly see, trading too big before it's earned. I talked about this yesterday. I talk about this pretty much every day, right? I'll go into it after I get through this initial list, but this is probably the main one that I see. Trading without a real plan or deviating if you do have a plan in place, not sticking to your plans, right? Another one is over trading. Unlike the real world, in trading, we don't necessarily make more money when we trade more, right? Usually it's the opposite. So over trading is a big one. I do best, and I think most of us do best when we just come in here, trade our couple plans. If the plans don't hit, we just avoid. But once we start trading outside of that and kind of trading on the fly, that's I think when everything goes out of the window, right? So yeah, usually trading more means you're going to make less, which is one of the interesting things about trading, and it's unlike any other job or career that we usually have, right? Letting FOMO emotions take over. This is a big one. Creating a process that doesn't really fit your personality or strengths. This is a big one. Not sticking to our plans. Moving your stops when they're about to hit, kind of confirmation bias, right? Over bias, I should say, or taking profits too early. This pretty much boils down to not sticking to your plans, right? So why do we make these common mistakes? There's a lot of reasons, but some reasons I feel are could be because it's a slower market cycle, could be because we have a feeling like we need to make money. This is a big one, especially when we're new, or especially if we have outside forces that are impacting, our trading. Maybe we're depending on trading as our sole source of income, or maybe we feel that we have a target quota that we need to make for the day or for the month or whatever it is. But that's a big one, feeling like we have to make the money and we have to make the trade work. We can't be wrong, right? When we have these feelings, obviously we get FOMO, we get stress, we get emotions, and that leads to bad judgment and bad trading, right? So what do we do about it? Here are some things that, I usually recommend that help. Like I said, if you guys have any other ideas, feel free to chime in. So trading too big, obviously, we had a whole discussion about this yesterday. Size down, right? Size down a lot, right? Especially if you're struggling, especially if you're new. Trade small until you've got at least 1 or 2 months of consistent results. If you're taking, big loss after big loss, your weeks are snowballing, you're having a bad month, now your months are snowballing, you've got consecutive red months. I mean, there's really no reason, to be trading anything more than, a couple hundred shares, in my opinion, right? If you're losing, hundreds per day or thousands or whatever per week or month, I mean, you should really be risking like 30, 50 bucks, right? Once you've got that down, you could slowly scale up, right? There's no reason to risk more than that if you're struggling. And if you are comfortable trading bigger size and you're having a tough time, the market's changing, whatever it is, size down, right? Size down until you get things under control. I always go down to about half size any day after red day. So next, trading without a plan or deviating. So we've got an entire channel workshop dedicated to this. We've also got Phil, Yuchi, and now Edson, who have a one-on-one mentoring group for the discipline workshop. They will essentially work with you guys for 7 days, for 1 week, reviewing your trades, giving you daily lessons, reviewing your executions, sharing their plans, pretty much teaching you guys everything, all the skills that you need to properly plan, execute, and manage with proper risk management your trades, right? So reach out to them to sign up. And these programs are free, guys. These are free. They're included in your membership. As long as you're a member, you can get active in the workshop. You could sign up with Phil, Yuchi, and Edson. So definitely take advantage of that. Over trading. This is a big one, right? Obviously, like I kind of alluded to earlier, we want to be sticking to our plans. We want to stick to where our edge is. If you don't have a plan on it, then just avoid it, right? We don't want to trade outside of our plans just because the market's slow or because we think the market owes us something. If you're struggling, trading more is just going to hurt. It's not going to help. So that's a huge trap that, I used to fall into. I think everybody here has probably fallen into, right? Especially when we were newer. We've had, whatever, several losses in a row, everything's going wrong. And you just feel like this one can't can also be wrong, right? But the truth is, chances are, I mean, if you were in a casino betting on red and black, the chances are always, just under 50-50 that one or the other is going to hit. It doesn't technically matter, what happened before that. But in trading, it's kind of ironic, right? Because in trading, if your last 5 setups didn't work, then I'd say there's a higher likelihood the next one's not going to work. And the reason I say that is because probably today or this market cycle doesn't favor your style, right? So that's something that's probably changed. If you just took 5 losses to your normal setup that usually has an 80% win rate, right? Something's probably up today in the market cycle, right? Maybe longs are in control if you're short, shorts are in control if you're long, etc. So markets kind of shift like that. So we got to recognize that, right? So we never want to be trading more. Letting FOMO or emotions take over, right? Obviously, we want to size down, focus on our plans. We never want to focus on the outcome in terms of our P&L. This is exactly what we teach in the Discipline Workshop. We want to be judging ourselves solely based on how well we stuck to our plans, not based on our P&L. Because the truth is, you can be green by doing everything wrong, by being lucky, right? You can revenge trade, you can do everything you shouldn't have done, and then you could still squeak out a green day, but that doesn't mean you should do that every day. That doesn't mean it was a good day, right? That means you didn't stick to your plan, so it was a bad day, right? So we don't want to judge ourselves based on our P&L alone, right? Trading a process or style that doesn't fit our personality. So we want to figure out what you trade best with small size. Once you find what you're comfortable with, you want to stick to it long enough to collect enough data. Then you want to lean into what's working, where the money's coming from, and cut out what's not. The only way to do this, the only way to kind of back test and figure this out is if you've got a process that you've been sticking to, if you've got a setup that you like and certain parameters that you're sticking to, then you'll be able to get enough data on that process to see if that's where your edge is, right? If you're kind of jumping around, short, long, taking this trade or that trade for no apparent reason, there's no way to go back at the end of the month and figure out, what's been working and what hasn't been working because everything's been so random, right? So finally, the last one, moving your stop or taking profits too early. I added this because I had a conversation with a member recently on this. So again, this falls back to having a plan, sticking to it. Like I said, go back and review your plans at the end of each month. If your stops are incorrectly placed, and it happens sometimes, but it shouldn't happen all the time, right? We want to then adjust our plans. Same with our covers, right? If we find that we're covering out too early and the stock is 80%, going lower, 80% of the time going lower, then we could kind of work on that once we hone into it at the end of each month or whenever it is and kind of review our grades and our process. So that's it. I'll hand it back over. DM me if you guys have any questions. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steve. So if anyone has any questions, just feel free to send Steve an email, stevenrh1@myinvestingclub.com. Got about 20 seconds here until the market opens, so I'm going to end the live stream on YouTube here and get back to live trading for members. Should be a pretty solid day. That's it.
Cool. See you guys.
Market is open.